Hey guys, this is part two, just a continuation. I had some other things I was thinking about, that I didn't get a chance to mention in part one. Um, we're going to talk about money. Money is created at the Fed level, the Federal Reserve. It's a private company. It's a private company that prints all of U.S. money. Yes, U.S. money is printed by a private company and it's called the Federal Reserve, the Fed. So when you hear about the Fed, it's not a government backed company. It's a private company entity. But anyway, long story short, the Fed, we call cash money, has several different names. To the consumer, we use it to buy goods like bread and whatever else we buy. But at a higher level of production, when it is made, it is called, and when it's printed and sent out, why does cash flow through an economy? Let's go back and say, why does cash flow through an economy? Cash is called a debt note. It is a note of debt. What did I just say? The reason why it's called a debt note is simply because the place that prints money, the machine that prints money, the printer that prints money, the company that prints money, plan on sending that money out to everybody and eventually receiving that money back in interest. In interest. It is the Fed prints money. Well, they just push the button now. They just enter it into a computer. And they plan on receiving that money back with interest. So if you hoard that money, or if that money goes to Mexico, that means that those notes, those bills that they were going to receive interest on, are no longer in the economy. And this is one of the reasons why they get upset about folks sending the money to Mexico. But if you hoard that money and you don't spend that money, the Fed never get the interest back on that money. Now, if everybody was doing it, that's a big deal. And that's what a run on a bank is. People are running to a bank to go take their money out, and they're hoarding their money. So those are a couple of things that came to me that I wanted to mention that I didn't get a chance to fully vet. If you guys have questions, there are so many different directions that this conversation can go that I would love to go in this conversation. But it's easier to explain these avenues when you have questions to address. Because there's doom and gloom. You can take the doom and gloom route, which is you need to buy physical precious metals. Right now, in a concerning time like this, a lot of economists and established individuals, so it's not just crazy people, a lot of established individuals think that the dilution of money, which means you just print money and give to people to the tune of 2 trillion, you'll hear 2 more trillion before it's done. And you probably hear 6 to 10 trillion before it's done. But anytime you dilute a currency, which means you put a lot of it out there, you're diluting what's already out there, which means you're multiplying what's already out there. You remember do you remember a time that, like, when previous presidents, this has nothing to do with Trump, but when previous presidents left the presidential office, you would hear stories like basically they added X amount of money to the federal debt or the global debt, or the US debt, right? They added so many trillions. Man, think about, like, this one event is going to probably be the amount of an entire presidency amount of debt that they would add to the US debt, if not more than that, if not more than that. But it's dilution of currency when you print money like that. And when you dilute currency, one or two things happen, right? I mean, fortunately enough for us, this is globally happening. But another thing that I don't even know the effects of this yet, the ramifications of this, but oil is at an all-time low, a all-time historic low. I've even heard economists saying that oil could go below 10. Can you imagine what that would be if oil went below 10? Well, first of all, it put a lot of people out of business. It put a lot of oil companies and stuff out of business, if not already out of business. But the U.S. dollar for the longest time was backed by oil. It was I mean, it was the petrodollar. When it came off the gold standard in '74 with Nixon, we created a debt note. It used to be the same equivalent as gold. Behind every dollar, there was a gold, a piece of physical gold that was the equivalent of that dollar. And then we attached it to petro. Long story short, all I'm trying to say is this right here. Okay, when you dilute a currency, a debt note, and you say, I'm willing to print this to infinity to solve all problems, you're not really solving problems. You're just pushing them down the road. And at some point, that chicken got to come home to roost, or whatever it's called, that's gonna manifest itself. And inflation is usually how it does it. Stagflation has done it in other countries like Myanmar Republic, to where money isn't worth anything. Now that's just like really doom and gloom, but economists are talking about this right now, right? Like 1929 happened, right? Regardless of perspective, that happened. And can it happen again? I don't know. What I would say is that now's a good time to familiarize yourself with events that led up to that, right? That's what the wise person would do, is familiarize him or herself with the events that directly correlated to that, Like, you're starting to hear new things that are starting to be pulled down because of this, and we haven't even been closed for a full month yet. You're starting to hear reminiscences of the real estate market is starting to get pulled down because of this. There's starting to be a price correction in the real estate market. Well, real estate is the foundation of all economies, right? Housing is the first thing to rebound, and usually one of the last things to fall, right? Then you have corporate debt out there. You have credit card debt, student loan debt. Now, the Fed just said it's willing to write off student loan debt. That's a lot of debt. You're just gonna magically poof. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not thankful for most of this stuff, but you might want to position yourself and just be real mindful and watchful of some of this stuff, I mean, I went onto a precious metal website and you can't even purchase physical gold or silver. They were completely sold out. Completely sold out. Don't think that it's not possible, because it can get a lot darker than what it is. And I in no way, shape, or form are trying to make videos about doom and gloom, but people should be prepared and have the correct perspective. I mean, never in the history of America, well, that was one time it did happen, but during the Spanish flu, but the economy is completely ceased to move at this point, other than essential places. But for major corporations, very little money is flowing through the economy right now. And it'd be silly not to think that's not going to have a huge debt, make a huge dent in the economy. But with that being said, also, I want to touch on some comments that were made by Trump that Andrew Cuomo actually responded back by saying, that would tank the stock market. So everyone who is invested, if you think the stock market is on its way rebounding, anything can send this thing spiraling out of control. And that's what you have to remember in bear markets. Anything can send the market, make the market overreact to bad news. The market can easily overreact to bad news, which means it can find new lows. Like, for example, Andrew Cuomo said when Trump mentioned that he's considering to put New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut under quarantine. Andrew Cuomo mentioned that he don't even know if that's legal, but that has never happened before. And how are you going to stop people from flowing or moving? He said this isn't Wuhan, China. This isn't Wuhan. But his following statement on that is that you're talking about stopping and quarantining the financial capital of the U.S. What's going to happen? And these are his words. He said the stock market would fall like a sinking stone. He said the stock market would fall like a sinking stone. So don't think that things can't get worse, right? I mean, we've lost years of profits, just evaporated, just simply evaporated. Years of profits. Folks who retired and was living in retirement are now going to have to go back to work. Where? Where are they going to work? What jobs are hiring them? Folks who were currently in retirement are going to have to go back to work. It seems like this is unfortunate for baby boomers. This is unfortunate for those in retirement because you were planning on living on your retirement and it evaporated overnight. What a farce. What a scam. What a scam. I mean, gold right now is at 1,600. Some say the gold could be 3,000 in the next 60 days. It could say, some say that when the U.S. hit their highest numbers of deaths and infections, which are projected to be over the next couple of weeks, that gold could be over $2,000, almost $3,000. And then if you're 60 and 70 years old and you've invested your money for the last 35, 40 years and you've seen profits and you've been excited about your profits, but unfortunately, you didn't have any, you left it in the same market that gave you the profits. And how is this any different than a Ponzi scheme? Like, how is this any different? I mean, I know technically it's different, but at the top, the money is stolen from you, man. Pensions and I don't know, man. So long story short, interest rates may go up next year. A lot. There was a time in this country where interest rates and inflation and all that stuff was around 16, 18, 14%. Some older people remember that. Us younger people don't even know what that looks like. We caught interest rate down at 4, 5, 3%. It can get a lot higher. But then again, it ain't the time to take out a whole bunch of debt either, because jobs are going to be a fraction of what they was before February the 16th. And if you don't believe that, look at the unemployment numbers. So, it seems like there are a couple of, I'm not telling you go put all your money in gold. I would tell you this though, gold was interpreted, gold is known as a storehouse of wealth. So you make your own decision. Things can get a lot more grim. We are looking for a Hail Mary at this point. Don't think that that's not what we are expecting. A Hail Mary. We are expecting a Hail Mary. This thing has already caused irreversible damage. Just a rant.